Jays 2020 sim on OOTP 21, and I'm JayBlue, and this is going to be a fun day. If you want to check out my stuff, you can find me on Twitter at jaysfromaway. You can also find my work at bluejaysfromaway.com, and the 2020 Toronto Blue Jays Minor League Handbook is available at Amazon and in print and on Kindle. So let's get right to it. This is going to be an interesting sim. We had the draft in this sim, and we'll catch up on some development of our minor leaguers, in addition to a strong week for the major league teams. So let's jump right in. So if you take a look at our schedule, we actually had a great week. We went 5-1. We had a split series to the St. Louis Cardinals in some interleague action, and then we swept the Texas Rangers. Our first game against the Cardinals, we got some bad news off the bat. It wasn't great. Anthony Kay got the start in this one, and he was injured, and he turned out to be out for 3 days for forearm stiffness. He was out for longer than 3 days, of course. It's been a week since this happened, so he's been out for, this total will be about 10 days. We actually brought up Ryan Borucki to replace him. So one left-hander goes down. We brought up Borucki, another one. Very great work here from our relief corps. We had Font, Yamaguchi, Romano, Dolis, Thornton all combined to not give up any runs, but it was Jacob Wagasback taking the loss in the end. The offense didn't do much. We had 7 hits, 1 hit per guy. Gave a day off here to Bo Bichette, and Vladdy Guerrero made another error. He was hit by a pitch, and Derek Fisher hit a double. We did pick up a win in the second game. Ryan Borucki, who seems to be unable to stick around, he picked up a day-to-day injury, as you can see down here at the bottom, but he did come back, and he just threw one pitch in this game, where it was a little disheartening. Borucki has had injury troubles this year, like nothing serious, but a lot of day-to-day stuff. Jordan Romano struck out 3. We got a save from Ken Giles. It was a 2-1 win. Vladdy Jr. hit a home run, so a nice day. Travis Shaw 2 hits, so 2-1 win against the St. Louis Cardinals. Next game was against the Texas Rangers. We got a 5-3 win. And in this one, Bo Bichette, as you can see, was 3 for 4. Gurriel was 2 for 4 with a home run and a double. Jansen was 2 for 4 with a double. Tanner Rourke was decent, 3 runs and 6 1/3, striking out 10, while Wilmer Font and Ken Giles finished that one off. Our next game, an 8-6 13-inning win against the Rangers. Bo Bichette had another big game, 3 for 7 with a walk-off home run. So a great day for Bichette. He was the hero. Travis Shaw also hit a home run. Danny Jansen had a couple hits. Nate Pearson in this one, 5 runs in 5 2/3 innings, even though he struck out 7. Yamaguchi gave up another home run. Ken Giles, 2 strikeouts. Jordan Romano, 4 strikeouts in 2 1/3, and Jacob Wagasback got the win in this one. We won another extra inning game, so that's 2 extra inning wins in a row. Billy McKinney was the hero here. He had a walk-off single against Martin. Bo Bichette with another multi-hit game. That's his second in a row. McKinney was 3 for 5 with the hit. Randall Grichuk hit his 14th home run of the season, was 2 for 4. And Matt Shoemaker, who I put back into the rotation after the injuries. Shoemaker had 6 1/3, 4 hits, 1 run, 5 walks, 7 strikeouts. I don't like the walks there, but he was effective. He was very effective. And our final game of the week, 6-5 win, another close game, but we came out on top. Chase Anderson just lasted a third of an inning, and he came out with an injury. Strained abdominal muscle, 6 weeks. So he's going to be out for 6 weeks. I haven't replaced him yet. We're going to do that today in this sim, in this sort of summary. I'm going to make that move now. Ryan Borucki did get back into some action, 3 2/3 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts. Trent Thornton was hit hard, so that was a little bit unfortunate. Home run for Vladdy Guerrero's second of the week, and Kevin Biggio was 2 for 4 with a bomb. Rowdy Tellez was also had a couple hits. And that was the Major League week. We're going to kind of put a pause on summarizing games right now. We're going to take a look at the draft. And it was an interesting draft. I mean, the draft in Major League Baseball is going to be quite interesting because, I mean, there's not a lot of information about a lot of these players, or there's not as much as there is going to be. So we had the number 5 overall pick, and we'll tell you that we were basically trying to decide between 3 players. Nick Gonzalez was the suggested player by the scouting director. If you haven't seen the draft yet in OOTP, next season we'll show it to you a little more actively. But you can ask for the scouting director's recommendation. And Nick Gonzalez was the scouting director who he wanted. I was basically looking at three players. Gonzalez is a real guy, like most of these first year draft players in the year of the sim. These are real guys. Nick Gonzalez is one of the best hitters in the draft, one of the best college hitters in the 2020 draft class, and I was really trying to decide between him, a pitcher, Asa Lacy. He's a left-handed pitcher, one of the best pitchers in the draft, and another hitter named Dylan Cruz. And to some degree, it was basically between Gonzalez and Lacy, and Lacy wanted $8 million, and our slot for the draft was about $5.6 million. So it was really a choice between, do we want to go way over slot to try to get a guy like Lacy, or go for someone who's going to be a much more reasonable sign? And ultimately, we went for that. We chose Nick Gonzalez. We haven't got him to sign yet. We did offer what he asked for, which was slot about $5.6 million. It says he's an easy sign for Toronto. We have signability down here. In here, New Mexico State, you can see his college stats. I have a feeling that these are sort of simulated college stats because they didn't play a full season in NCAA this year. So the ratings, you can see really good contact rating. That's a 65. Is it seems to be that, this version of the game with the 20 to 80 rating scale, if a guy's got 45, that's sort of fringe. He can sort of survive at the major league level. So his potential here is 65, solid power, pretty good defense. I mean, again, 55, 60s. For his defense. So he looks like he can be a solid major league second baseman with some pop and, good power. That eye, I really like to see good eye numbers, because without that, you're going to see a lot of guys with a decent average, maybe they'll hit 260, 270, but their OBP is going to hover around 300, which is below average. And when the guy is not getting on base nearly as much as you'd like to see him, then he's really not being as productive as he could be. I am going to take a look here at the OSA, and the OSA really is high on him. I tend to go with our head scout more than OSA, but I do like to sort of try to get a consensus, and with a 60 gap power, 60 eye, some really nice stuff from the OSA as well. So really nothing wrong in taking Nick Gonzalez with our first pick in the draft. Second pick, I took Ian Vidal. He is not signed yet. He, I think, was asking for a little bit more than slot, but it was only a few $100,000, so it wasn't too much. And our the way that the draft works is a little bit different in terms of signing bonuses in the game. They still haven't really updated it. Basically, unless a player asks for a specific amount after the first 5 rounds, you're only making offers to players in the first 5 rounds. There's no sort of draft pool or draft bonus pool that you are working with, and that if you don't if you don't come into, you don't come within a certain amount of that pool, a certain percentage of that pool, you start to lose draft picks in the subsequent seasons. They haven't implemented that in the game. It's just, you have a set amount of money that your owner is willing to spend, and as long as you don't go over that, and in fact, the owner won't let you make offers once you've got a certain amount on the table for players. They won't let you go over that with subsequent offers. So you can basically offer as much as you can, and if you do that, there's no real penalty to go over the slot totals. So we went about, offered a few $100,000 over slot for Ian Vidal. I'll show you the negotiation screen once we're done going through the players a little bit. So he's got, and here's the other thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for potential. I'm looking for the potential for stuff, but also movement, because the Blue Jays do play in a home run happy division and a home run happy stadium. So I want more movement, which is going to be more ground ball type stuff. He also seemed to be one of the better guys left when I selected him. So he is yet to sign. We did take and sign Ben Hernandez, another pitcher. In fact, I kind of like his stuff better than Vidal. He's, got better stuff here. It looks like he, potentially can develop that changeup much higher. Fastball is going to be okay. He's probably not going to be a hard thrower. Maybe he may pick up a couple miles an hour, but again, he's a finesse pitcher. Again, not bad, but again, when you're not looking at first round starters, you're sort of trying to make the best of what you've got. Fourth pick was JayBlue. He was again another guy who's like, by the time you get to the fourth round, you're not going to have the pick of the litter. He's not bad. He's got some potential, and I think the OSA likes him a little more than my guy does. So a little more power, I think. High school guy, and this is where I think the draft was a little less realistic than what you would see. There were way more high school picks taken in the overall draft, especially beyond the first few rounds. Usually in the draft, you see a lot more college guys, especially college seniors, after the first few rounds, mainly because they're going to be cheaper to sign. So there are a lot of high school guys, and here's another one, JayBlue. He is yet to sign as well. Our fifth pick was Ethan Smith, another pitcher. Again, I went for a guy who had more movement. I like taking guys who have more pitches because they're more likely to end up as a starter. And here's a guy who comes out of college. He was out of Vanderbilt, so that's a good program. And he did pretty well. 2.74 ERA, 1.17 WHIP. Not fantastic, but I do like the strikeout numbers. He was over a strikeout per inning, coming out of a good program, which means that these numbers are generally going to be against better competition. And then the next couple guys I sort of drafted myself. Brandon Fields, another right fielder. This, contact rating will definitely not get him to the majors, but I liked these high school stats. Usually you're looking for like OPSs over 1,200 at least. And OSA has him with a little more raw power. But once you get to the later rounds, and the defense is quite good, and that's the other thing I'm kind of looking for. I do want to see guys with defense, good numbers for defense. One of the things I look for later in the draft is somebody with one really good thing. This is actually a rarity, and Miller is a guy I did draft myself. He's a college shortstop coming out of a JUCO in Florida, Gulf Coast JUCO. Solid defense, probably not going to be a shortstop at the major league level, but he could probably be a serviceable one, and maybe a serviceable utility infielder. And let's see what his outfield ratings are, because I have a feeling he might have decent outfield. Yeah, he's got decent outfield rating, so he could probably play almost anywhere. I would probably, throughout his minor league career, get him some reps in left and right field, just to develop that as an option for him, as well as second base, and he can be a really solid utility guy. And you don't see too many guys with such solid stats overall in the 7th round, but he was still there, and so I'm definitely optimistic about him. He could definitely be a solid selection for us. And OSA, thinks he's a little less developed at the moment. Solid numbers overall. A couple of sleepers. I'm not going to go through everybody in the draft. A couple of guys that I think could be sleepers. Round 9, this is Liam Norris. Again, we have 3 pitches that potentially are major league average. We have fringe movement and control. And OSA likes him a little bit more. And he's a high school guy. Again, with high school guys, if you've got 1 or 2 good attributes, there's a lot of potential there. Another one is Tommy Troy, the 10th round pick. Again, fairly solid overall. Not the best power, but he's a shortstop, pretty solid defense, and decent speed. So all of those things kind of add up to a guy who's a nice... a nice player. And we have here an interesting trajectory. 4 years of college. He's only 18, but he has 4 years of college, and then he played in high school again. So it's no wonder that he had some pretty good stats. Another guy who I'm looking at could be a nice sleeper is Robby Ashford. Ashford is a center fielder, although probably with these attributes, these ratings, probably more likely to play in the corners. Pretty good arm. So I do like to see that. And again, this home run potential is really good. 45, probably a fringe player, but if you look at the OSA ratings, the eye is not great. That's something I would like to see improve over the course of his time. He's only 17, so he's one of the younger guys, so he's got some time to really develop. Jacob Smith, their 20th rounder. Again, solid overall here. We'd like to see the control a little better. OSA thinks he's going to be a much more well-rounded pitcher. And 4 pitches, and 3 of them look like they're going to be pretty solid if he develops. He's a little bit older, but it looks like a lot of the stuff is more developed than some of the younger guys. So another JUCO guy from Chippewa College, and we'll have to see. Again, a lot of these guys are the lottery ticket type of draft picks. I like what we see out of Alexander Ayala, the 23rd round pick. Again, we like to see one, by this late in the draft, we like to see like one really developed attribute. He's probably going to be a reliever. That changeup would have to develop fully before he could really be a starter. OSA likes him even more, giving his stuff a boost. So he's definitely got some potential. 24th round pick, Trey Carter, another right fielder. It seems like we're getting a lot of right fielders. He's got some pop, and I always check out my guys and see what happens when I look at their overall ratings. He could pitch in the mid minors. He's not going to be a great pitcher, so I'm not going to worry about him being a two-way player or anything like that. Our next sort of sleeper, Antonio Saldana. He's got a 65 potential rating on his stuff, and 70 if you look at the OSA. Again, one solid attribute. He's 20, so he's a younger college guy. Again, coming from a JUCO, junior college. He, that movement and control is fringe, but you never know. Sometimes they do tick up in terms of the potential as they get older. Lucas Cook. Another guy, he's got some solid power and fringy other ratings. And if we look at the OSA, it's a little bit better. The next guy that I think could be a sleeper is Trey Hondras. Again, he's a guy who's got good power potential. And not quite as much he sort of rounds off if we look at the OSA. But fringy, hitting, gap, eye, everything else. But nice power potential. The next guy is Caden Grice, our 30th round pick. He's a really interesting guy because he was drafted as a pitcher. And you look at him, and he's got some decent stuff here in pitching. He's got 4 pitches. But when you look at it, he's got way more potential as a hitter. I mean, this is actually fairly fringe, and that 50i. And when we look at the OSA, it's pretty striking how much power he's got. So he could be a decent first baseman or a lackluster outfielder. And we're actually going to try to develop him as a two-way player. If we take a look at here, we're going to say set game strategy. And we've got him checked here as a two-way player. So I think that's going to be, we're going to try to develop him as a left fielder, I think, at first, and maybe put him as a first baseman later. But he's one of the more interesting guys. I think if he can tap into that power, he could be a solid hitter. At least, fringy major league, but definitely, he definitely has the potential. I think that 60 rating for power gives him more potential than if we try to develop him as a pitcher. And finally, Connor Centolla. He's got some not bad stuff for a 33rd round pick. That's actually pretty good profile here. He's going to be a reliever no matter what, but pretty good profile here unless he learns a new pitch. And that's, our draft. Again, as I said, I think they have way too many high school players in general that teams were picking. So overall, I think we had a solid draft, but again, it's, you'll never know for another 3 to 5 years. So let's take a look at some of the other events of this sim. I'm not going to go too in depth with our minor league game summaries. You can see the Buffalo Bisons had a terrible week, facing the Norfolk Tide and the Indianapolis Indians. We lost 5 games, won 1. A couple of notes here. Burns had a couple of home runs this week. Forrest Wall hit a home run. Jonathan Davis had a solid week. Curtis Taylor got a start. We're going to have to just take a look at what our pitching setup is, because Curtis Taylor, he's been put into the starting rotation. So that was interesting. And Ty Tice had a bad week. He got really hit hard in a couple of consecutive games. Sean Reed Foley had 2 decent starts. He struck out 11 in the second outing. And we're actually pretty much saying that I think he's the guy who's going to come up to replace Chase Anderson, who's now on the injured list for 6 weeks. So let's do that right now. Sean Reed Foley, promote to Toronto. And we're going to update the staff. We may bring up somebody from New Hampshire to take a spot. We're down to 13 pitchers. We're going to go to schedule. We're going to go to the New Hampshire Fisher Cats. As you can see, the Fisher Cats went 2-4. Not a great week for the Fisher Cats. They're generally have not been a strong team. The 2 starts that I wanted to highlight were Josh Winkowski. He had a couple solid starts. His first one was this first loss here against the Erie Seawolves. They're the Tigers AA club. 5 1/3, 2 runs, 3 walks, 3 hits. And then he started the last game in that loss against the Richmond Flying Squirrels. They are the San Francisco Giants affiliate. 5 innings, 2 runs, 6 hits, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. So he had some solid outings this week. Jake Fishman with 4 strong innings here in a 10-inning loss to the Richmond Flying Squirrels. But in general, Ryan Noda did hit a home run. Gabriel Guerrero hit a couple of home runs. And Patrick Murphy gave up, Joey Murray had a really strong start in this 1-0 win. 7 innings, 7 1/3, 11 strikeouts, no runs. So really great start there for Joey Murray. When we're looking at the Dunedin Blue Jays, a really bad week. They went 0-7, playing Jupiter, who are the, I think, Miami Marlins affiliate, and the Tampa Tarpons, the Florida State League affiliate of the Yankees. It was really not great. Elvis Luciano had a good start and an okay one. Jesus Lopez hit a home run. Otto Lopez hit a home run. Jesus Lopez is with Lansing. Chavez Young had a good week. He had a 3-for-5 game and a 2-for-4 game the next day. But generally, not a good week here for the Dunedin Blue Jays. They're still in second place in their division. And the Lansing Lugnuts went 2-4, so really not a good week for anybody in our minor league system. We did have a couple of significant injuries here. Cameron Eden went on the IL with a knee contusion. Jordan Groshans went on the IL. Grant Townsend went on the IL for 4 months with a torn back muscle. So, we've been really going through players here, and it has not been pleasant here for the Lugnuts. Tanner Morris keeps hitting, though. He had a strong week. LJ Talley had a strong week. Adam Kloffenstein did not. But here we are. We're down to 13 pitchers right now. A lot of guys are tired. Fitz Stadler, Hobie Harris, Kloffenstein, and Luke Gillingham. And on the lineups, we're down to 11 players. So we're probably going to bring somebody up. We need some infielders here, maybe an outfielder. Let's look at who is on the Vancouver Canadians. Now, Philip Clark, we're going to take a look at something in a second, but infielders who might be ready. See, Miguel Geraldo is probably going to start in Lansing, but his development is still, 25. That's probably a stretch even for the Northwest League, so I'm not going to bring him up. Leonardo Jimenez could be ready. Luis de los Santos, not really. Schwecke, maybe. And Davis Schneider might be the most developed of them all, but I do like Schwecke's 40i. So I'm going to promote Schwecke to Lansing. And in terms of outfielders, the two things I'm looking here are contact rating and eye. Rafael Lantigua is very low, but the funny thing about Lantigua, he played second base. He played with Lansing last year, so I don't know why he's so low here in that development, and many other things. So I'm actually going to send Eric Rivera up to Lansing to help fill out some space. Now we're going to come back to these guys. This season was going to start fairly soon, the short seasons. I have moved a couple of our new guys to our newly drafted guys to the Bluefield Blue Jays. And Dunedin is okay for players. I'm going to go to the Fisher Cats for pitchers. Yeah, I'm going to set, that's hitters. We've got 15 pitchers, so I'm going to send somebody up to Buffalo. Now, who has been good enough? I'm going to bring up Hector Perez, because Perez has been very strong since we sent him to the bullpen. So we're going to update staff. We're going to update staff. We're going to update all lineups. And now we're going to go up to the Blue Jays. Okay, and we do have a lack of a number 5 starter. And we're going to give Sean Reed-Foley the chance. And that's it. It's been a good week. We had the draft. The other thing I did want to show you is the player development report. Now, this is the report that we get twice a season about how players develop over the course, or at least how our scouts see them developing. And so we got a big bump here for Curtis Taylor. As you can see, 4 attributes moved up, potential movement moved up, current control, overall rating as a reliever to 1.5, and potential rating to 2.5. That's a really nice thing to see. We got some improvements for Josh Winkowski. His current movement and his overall rating improved. A big jump at defense for Chavez Young, going from 35 to 55 in left field. And Philip Clark had some nice improvements here, so we might call him back up to Lansing. And Hector Perez as well, so that was reflected in that promotion. And that is about all. So we're going to leave it there, and we hope we see you soon. Another solid week for the Blue Jays. I'm JayBlue at Jays From Away on Twitter, and you can find me at www.bluejaysfromaway.com. Thanks for GM Games for having us on their YouTube channel. That's all. Have a great day.